Thanks for listening to this episode of the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network. We're here to get you ready for your Sports Saturday, and it's a big one starting off this weekend. We'll get into that later, but I'm Ashton.
I'm Tony.
I'm Landen.
How you doing, Tony? Rough,
tired,
a little
man.
rough right now.
5 hours of sleep was just not quite enough.
Yeah, if you follow us on YouTube, go ahead and do that. Subscribe. Hit that notification button so you know when we go live. Last night we were live on Friday Night Football. Tony was on the call with Ross Bates. I was in the back producing. Landon was at another high school football game.
Doing some scouting for us, getting us prepared for future weeks, huh?
Yeah, he's preparing us. It's our first year doing high school football, so we're going to know the landscape here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas high school football
Which we
arena.
actually, funny enough, we had people from all over the country, from Oklahoma City, New York, California,
Wisconsin.
We actually had people from all over the country tuning
Houston,
in.
San Antonio.
Yeah, all over the state as well. Actually, we a really great turnout. Lots of interaction on the chat on YouTube. So if you guys want to check that out, you enjoy high school football, man, jump on there, interact, man. It's not boring. We're not just calling a game. We're having a lot of fun. Last night's debate was actually beans and chili or no.
Yeah, go ahead and comment and let us know if you prefer beans on chili. If you don't, do you think it's stew? That's what I hear people say. It's good, but it's not chili. It's stew.
Yeah.
And I understand where that comes from, because my argument was I like beans on chili, whatever. But I'll say when you go to the grocery store and you look at chili, and then there's chili with beans, like that's what chili is. Chili. It doesn't have beans in it. I'm fine putting beans in it. It tastes good to me.
Yeah, it's not that it's not chili anymore. It's just chili with beans. Yeah, I'm cool with it too. Hey, think about this. You're on the chuck wagon, right? And when your chili became what it is because they just took what they had and the spices they could come up with on the trail, and that's how chili became, is whatever they could find and put into it.
Yeah, and chili's one of those things, just like stew or whatever. Just put more food in it. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it
stew
makes it a
is
bit
when you
more
get
hearty.
true vegetables.
Yeah,
Chili is just protein.
to stew. Yeah, it's that roast beef, potatoes, carrots, maybe other.
Yeah, you get celery and stuff like that. Okay, now it's
We talked about Cincinnati having that spaghetti and the chili,
Yeah.
so who knows that?
when we had
That's just-
somebody comment cinnamon rolls.
I've never
with
heard that.
with your chili.
I've
I
never
think
heard
that's
that.
a North thing. That has to be
Never
a North
heard
thing.
that.
I think we might have to try that one out.
No, that's a North thing. We're gonna.
We
keep
got to
it up
figure out how,
north.
because I'm just thinking, do you just
Yeah, do you eat it? Do you just
cinnamon
use it like a
rolls and
side
dip
bread?
it, or
Yeah, I don't know.
or you chop it up and throw it in there, or
No, I don't think you put it in.
because
I
I
think it's a side.
you have cornbread,
Yeah,
cornbread
yeah.
with chili or whatever. But if you did tune in, thanks for the support. We'll be back in a few weeks with a twofer, 2 games going on at once.
September 15th.
Both Chisholm Trail and Saginaw, 2 different broadcasts. But if you did not tune in, as soon as you're done watching this episode, go over and check that out. So we'll appreciate your support. Real quick before we get into it, let's take a note from our sponsor, Betalytics. Don't bet with your gut. The Betalytics dashboards allow you to quickly identify the top graded best bets and hottest trends. Betalytics uses AI machines to learn algorithms and create accurate game simulations, player prop projections, betting line evaluations, and best bet recommendations. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter. Today we have a lot of rapid fire stuff we're going to talk about, big news. We're going to get into college football later, because this is the first Saturday of college football.
You know,
For a
we
while.
talked a lot about being in those dog days of summer, and while here in Texas, the heat wise we are, sports wise we're ramping right back up for fall.
It's getting busier and busier. We're going to have way too much content. We might have to go to more than an hour-long show
Yeah.
here pretty soon. But big news right now, we'll start with baseball. Shohei Ohtani towards UCL. I believe it's the second time that's happened, Landon.
For him, I'm not sure if it can't be the second time he has to get Tommy John surgery. I feel like maybe he's probably partially tore it before, didn't have to get surgery on it, healed by itself. But from what I know, this is his first time having to get Tommy John surgery.
He will likely need Tommy John surgery, which puts him in a predicament. We talk about, hey, this is great that he's a two-way player and everything, but now he has to think about it because he said he's going to wait. He still wants to play and hit, be the DH before he gets surgery.
This, originally they thought this was just fatigue. And then just
the Angels thought it was just fatigue.
After they did some imaging, they found out he actually has a tear.
There's actually a picture of him standing on second base during that game with his arms crossed and his head down, and people were posting it showing how like tired he was, and then it came out that his UCL was torn, and everybody was kind of realized like, oh, like they might have overused him a little bit.
I mean, this guy might really be Superman. To play through that like he did. I mean, a lot of UCL injuries you see, I mean, they're just, you're down, you're out of it. They're thinking he's just fatigued and tired and it's a long season.
Even Bryce Harper, who was, you don't see it often, he tore his UCL in that outfield. Throwing from the outfield towards UCL. And you even saw him kind of like drop down, grab his elbow.
So Nolan Ryan tore his UCL one time, and
I've heard.
And he didn't know exactly. I guess you don't know until you go in and get it. So he did a practice pitch just to see, and I think he ended up coming out of the game, but he threw the ball 98 miles an hour with a torn UCL. I mean, at the age of like 70 something, he went out and threw a first pitch, and
it was
like in the 80s, So I'm gonna walk through this the best knowledge I have because I'm not a huge baseball guy like you are, and fans, if you're not a baseball fan, we'll talk about what the issue here is. Obviously, it's an issue. But with the torn UCL needing Tommy John surgery, it doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily a big deal from the hitting standpoint. Like he could still go out there and play with the torn UCL. If he goes and has Tommy John surgery, he can't go out and play, even though he's not going to throw the ball. He's going to be out for the year. Typically, when you're a pitcher, you have Tommy John, that's anywhere from, I wouldn't even say 12 months. That's best case scenario. It's probably
16.
never, but it's like 16 to 18 months. We had DeGrom had his surgery 2 months ago, and he's best case maybe this time next year. So we're going to really talk about how this affects his contract negotiations now. But I'll have to throw it out there. We keep talking about, did the Angels screw up here not trading him? Because, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. But they went for it. They made a couple of deals to give him help, and then they have the worst record in baseball since the trade deadline.
Well, and as important as he was to this team, you wonder why did they not protect him more? And knowing that he's been cramping through this late part of the season, he's been fatigued, he's been tired. No imaging was done until this last, I believe, Wednesday. Like, why would you not protect your guy more, knowing that he's that tired and you're pretty much riding his back?
Yeah, I know.
A team that's in fourth place in the
and
AL
pretty
West.
much out of it. Nobody thinks of this.
I mean, they're 10.5 games back first, but you're 5 games under 500. I mean, I don't know if you could get a late push. Maybe that's what they were hoping or thinking. I don't think it's worth. It was worth.
From their standpoint, why not just use the crap out of him? I mean, I'm not talking from an ethical standpoint, but you use him, push him, see if it's going to be worth it to invest in him in the off season. But you're not re-signing him. I mean, that may be the idea, but this is his last year if you want it to be.
Yeah,
and he's obviously not going to pitch next year.
No, he won't be able to
at all, unless maybe a playoff team, and he might make it back for the playoffs. I don't know. How long? If he has Tommy John surgery, I don't think he waits till the offseason. I think one way or another, I don't know if he waits till the Angels are officially eliminated, but let's say he has Tommy John surgery next week. He's like, we're out of it. Let's just figure it out. When theoretically could he be back? Could he be back for spring training next year if he's going to be a DH?
Can you look up when Bryce Harper came back? Because I know he came back. Like, when he came back, people were like, nobody should be back already.
But he plays outfield too.
Yeah.
And he's going to throw. As a
Harper's
DH, you
DHing
never
right
throw
now.
the ball. Well, yeah, I guess he comes back as a DH.
Bryce Harper even DH. So Bryce Harper's torn UCL came in the right before the playoffs. He hit the whole playoffs with a torn UCL.
Yeah.
So you can do it.
But once you have the Tommy John surgery,
once you have the surgery,
your arms basically I don't
Bryce
know.
Harper was medically cleared 160 days removed from surgery.
So roughly less than 6 months.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
So the best
That's
case
best case 6
scenario
months.
is Shohei can come
So
back
say
that
September,
quick.
October, November, December, January, February. Yeah, so he should
So
be
he could
good
back for spring training if he
as a
would've been
as a
ahead.
DH.
And why would he not? If there's no hopes that the Angels are going to re-sign him and he's going to come back, why would you even push through and try to help them at this point? Go ahead, go have the surgery.
Even if
Get
you're going to
yourself
pitch with it,
healthy and prepare for next season, at least to come back in a DH
Yeah.
role. And then, maybe by the end of the season you're throwing again.
yeah, even if you're going to come back with the Angels, just think about, it'd be different if they were in a race right now. And I know Angels, Mariners, Rangers, nobody wants to take the lead here in the AL West. Rangers are on a big losing streak. And then it seems like the Mariners and Astros have been right on their butt the whole time. I know now they're tied with Seattle. And nobody wants to take control of this division. But it's 10 games. You hadn't shown anything saying that, hey, we should win this division. Hey, we have a chance to win the World Series. Move up your timeline, have the surgery, and just say, next year I'm a DH. And then after that, we'll see. Because there's a chance he might not. I mean, he has the ability to pitch again.
Yeah.
But then he's got to really think, I don't know, unless the contract he signs with the team and they ask him, do you intend on pitching? Is that how they want to use him?
Obviously, that max contract, we were talking he was looking at a $60 million a year deal. It's probably not that if he's only a hitter and a fielder.
Or even that. What position does he
commands as a right fielder and a hitter? I mean, I think he still commands top money for a position player.
Is that the only thing he can really play is right field?
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's the
probably
only thing
not-
he's ever played.
He's not going to be a center fielder.
I don't think he's got the speed for that so much. I mean, but with the arm he has, I mean, he's a he's a true right fielder.
But
Unless he makes some kind of adjustment to first base like Harper.
he's
he's
going to
working
for
on
sure
first base
be just a DH next season. And I don't know, from his point of view, I'd be like, I'm going to still be a pitcher, obviously for contract negotiations. You're not just going to throw that away.
Yeah.
And then I think someone's going to take a risk on him. I still think he signs the richest contract in baseball
I don't
history.
know if he'll come back as a starter. I think he'll come back in a bullpen scenario.
And that might be better for him because you're seeing him, like we were talking about just a few weeks ago. He made a complete game one hitter, pitched a complete game one hitter, and hit 2 home runs in that, like the very next day. I mean, the very next game in a doubleheader. And now, like I said, hindsight's 2020. You're looking at, okay, he's not, he's not. I don't know. You can't even compare him to a baseball player. Babe Ruth's the closest, but you're not comparing. But he's not immortal.
Yeah.
And now we're thinking, was that the smartest thing? Like, he pitched complete game. You're going to not give him a break. You're thinking, well, he's pitching, and then he's just DHing. But that's, if you don't play baseball, you're not going out on the field, but you're talking about warming up. They're completely different. Just the how important a day's rest is in baseball. Going almost every day for 162 games, and then doing double duty and pitching as well. Because even pitchers, when they have to bat, which I know we have DHs in both leagues now, it was like maybe 2 at-bats, depending on how good they were pitching. And really, it's kind of like bunt the ball if you have the right situation. Like, just try to get on base. We're counting this as an out type deal, but man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Now, what do we think about MVP? Assuming he gets the surgery, like I know he can still play. I don't know how many more home runs or how effective he'll be with a torn UCL. But let's say he gets surgery next week. Is he still the MVP front runner? I mean, he did all this in a span of what's a baseball season? 6 months, 5 months?
Yeah.
He did it in 5 months instead of 6. Depending on what Aaron
think it'll
Judge
just
does.
Depend on how that 6 months rounds out for guys like Seager.
because
And
Corey
guys like
Seager's
Mookie
missed a lot of
Betts.
time, but he has a lot of, he has 24, 25 home runs, and he's only played like 85
Yeah.
games or something like that. So that comes into play because you're talking about Ohtani did this in this many games. I think he still wins MVP. There's not really you're talking about Corey Seager is not really a close second right now. See how he does. I know Judge just hit 3 home runs the other day. He's been injured a lot. I still think Ohtani wins it, and maybe that's something for Ohtani. He's like, hey, I'm going after the MVP. I don't know what his motivation is right now. He's got to have some playing for a losing team with no guaranteed contract, and really, I'd be upset unless the Angels were telling him, hey, rest, and he's like, no, I'm going out there to earn a contract, which he could have just sat down for the season and still got $50 million a year.
He has nothing to prove to anyone, to any team.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be signing with the Angels now after well, dude, you're just using the crap out of me with no knowing I'm not going to re-sign here anyways. Move on to basketball. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Bronny James collapsed, practice. USC had cardiac arrest. Doctors have diagnosed him with congenital heart defect, which sounds really scary, but they say he should make a full recovery and no issues. I know usually you hear congenital heart and you hear failure after that or something like that. Heart defects are weird because sometimes it's like you have a heart defect, you can't play sports.
Yeah.
But in this case, they say he can fully recover. I don't know what that entails.
Is there any possibility that this could happen again for him?
Yeah, if he's got a heart defect and they're saying I don't know if they're recovering from the heart defect or the cardiac arrest is what they're talking about, because a heart defect you have to have fixed. I mean, I know my son had a heart defect. He was born with a hole in his heart, and they say he's pretty much fine now. It's fixed itself, but he's still on that list. You have to watch that. He has to have a checkup every 3 years just to make sure that's going on. So it didn't go in depth. Is like he's gonna make a full recovery from cardiac arrest and then just watch this. But again, once he gets out of, LeBron James' son, I'm not worried about him in college not being able to get the best health care available because he's LeBron James' son. But once you get into professional sports, that's covered. Where if you need certain kind of care, it's not a big deal.
And they'll obviously do a lot of monitoring. At USC, I'm sure the family's going to make sure, the James family, I'm sure they will spare no expense to make sure he gets the best care. Like we talked about before, outside of basketball, just for the health of himself, that he's going to get the best care.
See, I was going to make a point, and you brought that up, and now it's going to make me sound like a dick.
No, go ahead.
But from a point of going into the NBA, of course, you got to make sure you're healthy. It sounds like everything's going to be fine. I did not go into likelihood of this happening again or anything like that, but we talked about his draft stock when he was in high school, because LeBron James says his final year supposedly is whoever drafts him, he's going to go play for.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, as of now, he's, whatever you want to do with projections, hasn't played a college game. Still another year after this, but projections around late first round, talent-wise, could move up because of LeBron James. Does this affect anything? I guess if there's another incident, maybe, but y'all don't think any NBA team's going to look at this as...
I think it just depends on what comes out more.
Yeah, if something else happens, or he's not putting in the minutes you think he should, and then maybe there's something there. Like, does it have anything to do with the medical issue?
I don't know if it'll end up getting him, like, if it's to the point where he's like a guy that he can only play a certain amount of minutes in a game, like he has a restriction on that. I don't know if that'll fully tank his draft stock to where he goes undrafted. I feel like it's more of a thing where he'll drop to the later rounds.
Yeah.
But then at that point, do you see him being on an NBA roster, or does he become a G League guy?
Cardiac arrest is one of the most serious things you can go through. You hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, they died, type situation. And he goes from that just a few weeks ago, I know you still have a couple of months before college basketball starts to ramp up a little bit. I don't know what. I mean, he's a star at USC. That right?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't dug that much into college basketball yet. He's obviously going to be a starter, but you have to see like does he play? Is he going to go straight to how many ever minutes he would normally play? I think that would be asking a lot after just coming back from cardiac
I mean,
arrest.
if he's fully cleared by doctors, then I don't see
Yeah.
why
I guess
not.
that-
I mean,
yeah.
the doctors would if they limit him, but if they fully clear him, he should be
Same.
available for all.
Yeah, 3 months after cardiac arrest. I don't have the medical knowledge. It's just, to me, it's like, man, that's one of the most serious, like a short of a heart attack. Heart attack, I guess there's the potential for damage to the heart. As cardiac arrest, if it gets,
I mean, we see the
Take a
same
break,
with, DeMar Hamlin. Obviously, that's been much more than just 3 months, but I mean, he's been fully cleared and he's back on the practice field now in training camp. And
yeah, I guess that's true. Basketball to me seems it takes more of a toll. I guess not. I mean, basketball, you're just running. Football, I know it's like full speed for 10 to 15 seconds, rest for 20 seconds, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we'll see. I don't think there would have to be some other incident for it to mess with his draft. That's my opinion.
I mean, in really any sport that you'll play puts strain on your heart with it beating fast and then slowing down, beating fast and slowing down. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there is anything that he could do besides like switch over like golf or something.
Yeah.
If it is a thing to where his heart can't keep switching beats like that all the time.
Yeah. We'll switch over to football now. Surprising move by both 49ers and Cowboys, or I guess not by the 49ers. We knew Sam Darnold was the listed backup Brock Purdy starter, and they said they were going to shop Trey Lance, and the Cowboys trade for Trey Lance, give up a 4th-round pick.
I think it's
Interesting
much more
move.
surprising for the Cowboys to make a move like this. You just typically don't see them make these types. I mean, this is probably as close to a blockbuster deal as you're going to see from the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And I think it is. I think they're getting a really great talent. A former 3rd overall pick in a quarterback room that was just full of talent. I mean, he wasn't going to get the playing time. It wasn't for lack of talent to be a 3rd-string guy. He's not a 3rd-string guy. I think he's a kid that can actually start in this league.
Yeah, you don't accidentally get drafted 3rd overall.
No, he's got talent. There's definitely something there. We've seen spurts of it. Obviously, he didn't get a lot of playing time behind Garoppolo.
I know he got hurt last year too.
Plus his own injuries, yeah.
It's a weird situation. I mean, Cooper Rush did great last year, but he's been around for 4 or 5 years, probably even longer than that. And he's a formidable backup, but you saw his limits. He can only take you so far. Trey Lance is kind of like, yeah, you can see the downside of it, but you don't know where his limits are. He's been in a weird system that just didn't fit him. He's dealt with the injury. Maybe it was like an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation. They drafted him a year sooner than they thought they'd need him because they thought Garoppolo was out of there, and then he stuck around for another. Is this Lance's 3rd year?
Yes.
So so he stuck around another year, and then injury shows you Brock Purdy.
And Brock Purdy was drafted in the exact same draft as Lance, and I think it was the 49ers' last pick of that draft.
It was the last pick of the draft.
It was the last pick. He was
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant, and it's a weird situation. And he did have a rough offseason. Stat wise, it doesn't look like it, but if you watch the highlights, it was rough. But then again, it's just a completely different system. He has that potential, like you said. You don't accidentally get drafted 3rd overall.
Yeah,
there's something there now. Maybe he flames out, and it's just some guys do great in college and just aren't cut out for the NFL. Other ways, he has that potential, and I don't think it's a bad move for the Cowboys. It's surprising.
It's very surprising
To see what are their thoughts on Dak Prescott, because I know he has a couple years left on his contract. They're trying to re-up it. But, Cowboys are ones, like, I don't think this is going to happen. This isn't my opinion. But there are ones that will cut a guy loose a couple years early and take the hit. typically a year later than you want. But
what are you looking at? I mean, you're going to have two quarterbacks that are coming up to be paid. I mean, the Cowboys are going to owe Trey Lance $940,000 for the remainder of the 23 season, and $5.3 million next year, fully guaranteed. And then they have an option next to pick up his fifth-year option for 2025. But that's what you're talking about is Dak Prescott. You've got two quarterbacks that are coming up for contracts. I don't see Trey Lance. He's not your typical backup that's not going to be looking for a big payday.
Yeah.
You know, not top tier quarterback payday, but starting quarterback. I think he's a starting quarterback in this league. Are the Cowboys positioning themselves for a future without Dak Prescott?
You can say that he's better backup quarterback. Cooper Rush, obviously, talent-wise, he's a better quarterback. If you're getting him to solidify, hey, we're going for a championship in the next couple of years, we're contenders, it's a better option. But Cooper Rush being in the system for so long, if you're talking about 2 or 3 games or 4 games, like obviously Cooper Rush, depending on the teams, can handle that.
But also look at the system that's changing with Mike McCarthy taking over play calling and the changes that might bring in your backup quarterback. Do you not want a player that mimics the style of your starting quarterback where you don't miss? Cooper Rush wasn't the exact same quarterback as Dak Prescott. Could Trey Lance be a more similar quarterback to what Dak Prescott is, assuming Dak Prescott, heaven forbid, goes down and Trey Lance needs to step into the starting role? Does that give you a better position because the scheme of your offense doesn't have to change?
If you're talking about more long-term, like Dak's out 6+ weeks or Dak's out for the season, Trey Lance is definitely a better option than Cooper Rush. Not that he's not a better option if it's down 2 or 3 games, but to go and make a move like that, I don't think short-term injury was your concern. Long-term injury, but yeah, I'm concerned. Maybe it's just insurance to see what happens with Dak. What if Dak is not able to overcome the turnovers, which most of his career hadn't been an issue until last year? You're looking at a weird contract situation where you're trying to extend him. What if...
but this is a pretty big move, to give up a 4th-round pick.
At this time. It's not the middle of the offseason.
Yeah, for a guy like this, just ahead of going into the regular season, what could the thoughts be? Because I think this came as a surprise to everybody in the country that the Cowboys would make a move. I mean, not surprising. The Niners were looking to move the kid, to help cap space. And
if you know Jerry Jones, and just recently we're talking about DeMarcus Ware announced going into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. And that always brings up, well, what about Jimmy Johnson? And Jerry Jones has said, I don't put him in, which it may not be 100% true, but this is his thinking. I don't put him in because every year we talk about it. If I put him in, we stop talking about it. And that's absolutely Jerry Jones, the Cowboys being number one storyline.
Yeah.
You put it past him like, hey, it's a 4th-round pick. Let's just make a move. It doesn't hurt our team. Let's just make a move. And, hey, now we're the number one story right now. Because this just happened last night. Middle of Friday Night Football, I saw this go down.
Yeah, I mean, it's all marketing. I mean, this year it's only going to cost him $940,000. That's a big marketing move for $940,000. There's big upside to that.
If anybody needs to be concerned, I think is Dak Prescott. That's an interesting move. It just makes it slightly easier for them to move on from him now.
I think that this, obviously, and this will continue, that Cowboys talk all over the country is about Dak. Dak is constantly being questioned. I mean, we would probably say a top 5 quarterback in the league.
At his best. He's anywhere, to me, I have him typically ranked 7th to 12th. So, even with his interceptions,
no doubt he's
still the number one offense
top 10 quarterback who's worried about his job to a 3-year.
So there were obviously some Cowboys fans that said put Cooper Rush in. Cooper Rush did great. That was, I'm not going to say an anomaly. Cooper Rush did do great. But healthy Dak Prescott, you're not putting Cooper Rush in.
Yeah.
National media, once Dak came back, they stopped talking about that. They like to make it a storyline. When Dak's ready, does Cooper Rush, he's 3-0. Does he really, he's 4-0? Are we going to, and then he lost to the Eagles. But now, Dak struggles. you have that talk, Trey Lance, because that's a Cooper Rush is not going to be a starting
So look
quarterback.
at this way is also
Trey Lance could.
the possibility. I mean, this team's building to be a Super Bowl contending team. You know, if it's not Super Bowl, it's bust from here out. You know, you have a lot of young contracts. Starting wise, your starting lineup on all 4 facets of the game look good. Special teams, defense, offense, everything looks good, right? When you were building this championship team, you may look at your weaknesses. Where am I at depth wise? And these may be depth moves that they're making. And maybe we see some more of this from the Cowboys going throughout this season, is continuing to pick up. Maybe you see them pick up some veteran talent in free agency. I don't know if I see them make any big moves and give up any more draft stock.
Yeah.
But I could absolutely see them going after some guys in free agency, especially veteran guys, just to solidify that depth and that culture that they're going to build to really become a championship team, possibly.
And if things work out with Trey Lance to an extent, and they think, not that he's going to be better than Dak Prescott, but you're not having to pay Trent. When his payday comes up, even if he shows success, you're not paying him $40 million a year.
Yeah.
Just because he hasn't proved that. And maybe it's a situation, Dak at $45 million a year, or Trey at, I don't know, 25, 30. I don't know what kind of playing time he'd have to see to get to that number. But maybe you see like, hey, we're set everywhere else. We know we just need a good enough quarterback. And if we can get out of this, I haven't even looked at his contract. They won't be able to, if they don't re-sign him, they can get out next offseason. It'd be a pretty big hit. But maybe that's something where, hey, we're off this year, and that kind of resets us. It extends that window a little bit more, because you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. You're going to have to pay, you just paid Diggs. You're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And Dak's wanting to restructure his contract as well, where you just need to rip the Band-Aid off or not. I know maybe the Cowboys aren't sold on extending him even more, but I said it last time when he was okay with $32 million and you said, no, we're not. And then Patrick Mahomes re-signed for nearly $50 million a year, which I know that's not his cap hit, but he signs that $500 million contract. And now you're kind of in the same situation. If you wait till Burrow gets his contract, you wait till you already waited and Hurts got his contract, that price tag's going up. Daniel Jones is getting paid $40 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Dak's going to want more money, and maybe that's just the market now, because we talked about him being 7 to 12, or I said 7 to 12. That's about where he gets paid now. I think he's the 6th or 7th highest paid quarterback. Now, when he's not turning the ball over like he did last season, he's probably paid pretty fairly to market. Now, if you want to go percentage-wise of the cap, you can do all that, but the market for quarterback, Dak Prescott's not overpaid where he's at. Not grossly overpaid, as most people have said it. But if you could reset that and get a cheaper option in Trey Lance, if that works out, maybe that's better, because nobody's expecting Dak Prescott to drive and lead this team to a Super Bowl. It's, can Dak Prescott get it together, be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback that can be a bus driver, and on all the weapons he has and on the back of the defense, make it
you're not asking him to take this team on his back and lead them to a championship. You're like you said, you're asking him to facilitate what he has around him, allow the defense to work, and allow all these stars on offense they have to work, and all he has to do is not screw it up. That's pretty much all he has to do.
And the question is, can Trey Lance do that for $20 million less a year? Because you're saying he's up there paid with Patrick Mahomes. Well, Patrick Mahomes can throw. I mean, I know Patrick Mahomes needs offensive line. Obviously, we saw when they lost the Super Bowl to Tampa. He has a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, just do that. Patrick Mahomes is not doing it alone, but Patrick Mahomes is taking over those games, and Dak has that ability. Which, from time to time, when others are slacking, Dak can do that, but you can't see that consistently. You can't. His interceptions went up; they were more aggressive. A lot more aggressive last season, and that's what happens. You're more aggressive. Same with Tony Romo. Tony Romo had that Brett Favre mentality to him. He's going to throw 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. He's going to put up big numbers. He might throw 3 interceptions in a game.
Yeah.
Untimely interceptions, but nonetheless, that's how you go. And Dak, I think we saw early in his career, is when you're a little more subdued, which I know the Cowboys had the number 1 offense this year, and in the past they haven't. But now they have the defense. Now they have the weapons. a little, pull the reins back a little bit on Dak, and then when you need to, he can throw a bomb down the field.
Yeah.
But when he's just going down there trying every time, he's going to throw picks. It's not going to work out. I agree. You don't have the running back. You might with this running back room, but you don't have the proven running back like you did with Zeke for his first few years. Offensive line isn't where it used to be, but you have the defense. And I agree. Let's be a little more conservative with this, because obviously Dak's going to throw a lot of interceptions if you don't. But be conservative, have this game plan, and then you just unleash Dak sometimes. And you see him. And
I think
he's thrown 500 yards in a game.
I think Dak needs to be 5% more accurate with 5 less picks, and he gets paid.
Yeah.
I think if he doesn't go, I mean, even if he stays at the same accuracy, 5 less picks, he still might get paid. But if Trey Lance can show any upside of over 5% accuracy over Dak, if they're looking at him thinking this kid could easily throw in the top percentiles of accuracy in the league, he could go in and be a top 10, top 5 quarterback right now. I don't think Dak stays.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, even Dak, when you show some of his passes, just completely offline. You're like, well, he's not an accurate quarterback. But you can go get highlights where he throws a bomb downfield and it lands right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. It's certain situations, and Dak's a frustrating quarterback, and that's why it's frustrating that makes a ton of money, where he can be that top 5 quarterback you need him to be. A couple of years ago, before he had that calf injury where he missed a game, they were talking MVP. He was MVP, not quite a favorite, and then he kind of tailed off. And then even last year, he wasn't great to start off the season. Gets hurt, gone for a few games, comes back better because he was just god awful in that first game. But again, turnovers. Like, he was putting up decent stats, but he was turning over the ball, which was not his game. He was known for protecting the ball, but they were going more aggressive. They did have the number one scoring offense, number 1 yards.
The difference in his game now, when he starts to force things and does get the turnovers, he's not running the ball as much. When he was running the ball, that was his protection of the ball. He would be at himself in a situation where now he's going to try to thread the needle into tight coverage to make a play rather than tuck it and get the 5, 6, 10 yards.
Yeah.
That's the difference in his game. And yes, we want to see him protect himself, but that's what you see in the interceptions he's throwing, is he's trying to force things when I think he really should just tuck it and run. I mean, this guy's the size of a linebacker, and he's got decent speed at a quarterback. I think we should see him tuck it and run and scramble more.
And I know he's been injured just about every year, last 2 years. Type of injuries, he's not necessarily injury prone. Like, I know that calf thing, that can be a sign of it. But he broke his ankle. That's anybody that goes down like that, I don't care who you are, your ankle's going to snap like that. That's not an injury prone thing.
Yeah.
His thumb broke. Hitting it, that was just bad luck.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't think he's injury prone at all unless we see a few more injuries. Minus the one where the calf injury against the Patriots. I agree. Like, you've seen it, and he's not necessarily one to slide. He'll go down, run over somebody. He's fast. If he goes and does like a Michael Vick or Patrick Mahomes type offense, they might read him better, and that may not work. But I like, hey, just run it 2 or 3 times a game.
If you just have to tuck the ball and run and protect
and not even design run plays. Maybe a couple, but I know Patrick Mahomes has a lot of design. This is what we're doing. But I think if you go back and see some of the times that Dak has rushed, he's been more successful. Once the play breaks down, I'm just going for it.
Yeah.
And in fact, even the passing plays, most of the time when the play breaks down, he has to improvise, Dak does better than when he just stands in the pocket, throws it. And I know a lot of his interceptions, like one off overtime against the Jaguars, off Noah Brown's chest. A lot of, and CeeDee Lamb made some mistakes in route running last season. There's quite a few you could put on the receivers, but that's with every quarterback. If you say, well, Dak, you count how many ever, I think they counted like 6 that weren't his fault, and then you adjust the interception totals for everybody. Like, well, you have to go back for every quarterback and do that too. Every quarterback has some like that. Dak had quite a few, but I think it evens out all
Yeah.
the end. So going from the pro game, we talked about Trey Lance. You don't just get drafted number 3 overall accidentally. Got to have a good college career, and college football starts today. A little bit of a weak lineup today.
From here through the first of the year, we're gonna have
Yeah.
college football on Saturday mornings. I don't think it gets better than
Yeah,
that,
and then
does it?
starting the next week, or not next weekend, that'll be the weekend after, but we have Thursday night football kicking off the year. And see, the NFL does it, which I know it works different with bye weeks and all that. NFL kicks you have a big matchup. That's why I'm kind of disappointed. You don't really have, I'm sure there's a college game day, maybe Notre Dame and Navy right now today, but you start off with a bang. Now, I know next week is the big weekend.
Yeah, you just get a lot of this non-conference stuff. You know, teams they're not going to go out, and they don't want that one loss early.
Yeah, you'll get some decent matchups. I know, I don't even know if they do the Cowboy Classic anymore at Cowboy Stadium, but they would have TCU, LSU. Well, yeah, Texas A&M, Arkansas will play. Oh, that's a Cowboy Classic. Whatever the beginning, they would have their kickoff big matchup prime time, but it would be Oregon State, LSU, TCU, Alabama's played there before, Michigan State, something like that. And you always have a few of those matchups. They'd play at the Orange Bowl. Down in Houston, they'd have something in Vegas probably. And I think most of that happens next week. We'll look at the lineup for you then. Decent. It's college football. This lineup works because it's the first week it's back. Yeah. And if you about you, but I have YouTube TV, and I'm going to have probably, you have YouTube. You're going to get so many.
We've been doing that with baseball and Little League World Series recently. Yeah.
And I know last year they brought out it was for college basketball. They brought out all the different screens.
Yeah.
Or you can watch 4 at once. And hopefully that comes back for this, but you're going to get some of the most obscure games. That's what I like watching. You watch Texas State in one of their things, and that's probably a regional thing because we're in Texas, but all of a sudden you have a bunch more channels, all these alternate whatever SEC, you get a bunch of SEC games, and that's why it's the best time of the year if you haven't cut the cord yet, or you did and you're looking. I think YouTube TV is great at its base without all the extras. It's $70, which is hard to beat. I know Dish Network or whatever satellite and cable, you can get that entry level thing, but you're gonna sign a contract, you're gonna pay. YouTube TV is not a sponsor. All of a sudden, it's I need to talk to them.
It sounds like it was a sponsor. I thought we were going into an ad here.
We're on YouTube though. We're on YouTube, so we're definitely supporting them. I mean, kind of a knock. Give me my YouTube Premium back. I pay for YouTube TV. Why can't I have YouTube Premium? I hate those ads. Whatever. Anyway, so we got UTEP, Jackson State today. But wait, we kick off at 1:30 today. Number 13 Notre Dame and Navy. That's a decent matchup. Good. Navy's not a great powerhouse, but it's a good. You have Army, Navy. Navy's a decent team to watch in college football.
Number 6 USC playing tonight at 7
San Jose State. Yeah.
San Jose State.
UMass, New Mexico State. We'll get into some weird bowl games later. Talk about weird names. That's what this looks like. It looks like early bowl season matchups. Florida International, Louisiana Tech. I'm going to watch a lot of these games because it's the first week of college football being back.
Yeah, going through this, I'm just not seeing any major.
No SEC teams.
None of the top teams are going to play.
No crazy Big 12 teams, Big 10
No, you're
teams.
not going to have any big matchups.
Yeah, next week.
Michigan's going to face East Carolina.
Yeah,
these guys are looking at. This is like a scrimmage for them. We're going to run through, and you're going to see some high-scoring offense from these top-ranked teams.
Next week's when it really gets started, and I like it too because throughout the week, MAC has that deal where they have Tuesday or Wednesday night games, and you'll have college football on most nights. You'll just have some random game on, and I like it. Yeah, and if you're a Texas fan, an A&M fan, Alabama fan, all that's coming next week, which we'll highlight as well. But I did, in the spirit of college football, I did some research, and preseason polls are out, and all that jazz. I did a research on a few different websites, some different experts, and got kind of everybody's collective thoughts on some things that are happening this year, what they think are going to happen, predictions. Go over a few of the interesting ones. Just about every expert picks Georgia to make the national championship. 2-time defending champions, makes sense, but new quarterback, so that's kind of interesting. I think it's kind of bold but then again, I think you're pretty safe picking Georgia, LSU, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Carson Beck coming in at quarterback now. I don't, Kirby Smart, he just finds a way to rebuild and bring more recruits in.
I mean, they do it every year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think Georgia, I'm predicting they go undefeated and they're in the national championship again.
I don't know if they'll go undefeated, but I think they'll definitely make it into they'll definitely make the 4 in a playoff spot. I don't know if they'll make the 1 seed necessarily. I feel like the SEC is a deep team, like deep conference this year. I mean, it is every year, but I feel like this year is everybody is good.
I have LSU winning the national championship. If you watched my episode of the sports page, I talked about this. That really in the SEC East or the SEC West, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M are kind of the 3 teams out of there. Texas A&M, I think, can take a step this year. New offensive coordinator. We'll see how that works out. But it depends on, because I have LSU beating Alabama, and then if Texas A&M can beat LSU, which they compete all the time, as long as those 3 teams work out that way where they all beat each other, and I think that's A&M's ticket. Where if they can get the tiebreaker, they can get in there. Of course, I think it's going to be Georgia that'd be facing in the championship. But I have LSU beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that's what gets them. I think they're going to be a 1-loss team in the playoff, in the SEC championship. And if they can get past Georgia, which I think at that point Georgia still gets in as well,
even
being
with
undefeated.
The SEC championship. Yeah, I think they still are in. I mean, what do we think about Michigan? I mean,
I had them. I can't remember my Final Four. I know it was Michigan was in there. LSU, Georgia, Michigan.
I think Ohio State's going to hold it off.
I didn't have Ohio State.
I like the Ohio State pick.
Yeah,
because
USC. That's who I picked.
I feel like Ohio State has a lot of people coming back that weren't eligible for the draft. That they have a lot of younger guys that have big game experience.
Yeah,
that they didn't have last year and still went deep.
It's just one of those years, where it just falls that you have a lot of returning players.
They had that pass interference call in the back of the end zone that if it would have gotten called, it would have put them on the 1, I think. They probably would have ended up scoring there, you assume.
Well, and we also have Penn State, a 2-loss team last year, but coming off a Rose Bowl win. They're coming into the preseason ranked 5. I see them being able to make some moves as well. Here's
another school that we haven't mentioned, but it's out of the powerhouses we mentioned. This is the one that, outside of those, this is the one that comes up the most for experts. It's Florida State.
Florida State's surprising to me where they're coming up and to be able to compete this year. Man, a 3-loss team a year ago. They did finish the season with a win in the Cheez-It Bowl.
We'll get into some of those weird bowl names, yeah.
But, I don't know. What do you think about Florida State?
I feel like most seasons they come up hyped like this, not quite like Notre Dame, but the same way, where a few years ago there was an overtime back and forth Notre Dame Florida State game. We're like, holy crap, this is great. And then both teams kind of fizzled off, and you're like, well, maybe it wasn't as great a game. Maybe it was just 2 above average teams. But everybody has their dark horse. There were some experts that had Texas in the Final Four. Some had not Oregon. Who do they have in there? I can't remember. But Florida State was in there 4 or 5 times out of all the experts. So
it'd be great to see Florida State come back to what they used to be in the
since Jameis Winston.
Days. Yeah, I mean.
But even further back in the 90s, where they were competing every single year.
Yeah, that would be great to see. I think that's great for college football if Florida State gets back to that.
They were kind of like the Ohio State now, where they weren't winning championships every year like Alabama, but they were there. Like it always seems like somehow Ohio State's fitting back in there and competing.
Yeah.
for a championship. Let's get into some of those weird bowl, not just bowl names, but advertisers. I mean, here, real quick before we do that, we had the consensus for the Cotton Bowl was LSU, Texas. I think maybe if Texas, maybe that's on par, maybe a little bit. Let's wait and see if Texas can really be come back. LSU, I think that's kind of low for them to make the Cotton Bowl. I guess that's assuming they don't make the playoff. That's basically what the Cotton Bowl's been, is for outside of last year. But if the SEC team makes it, it's the third place whoever did make the college football playoff.
Yeah. And
then they have Tulane predicted to return to New Year's Six Bowl after, of course, last year they beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. They have them, didn't say what bowl game, but they were going to be in one of the New Year's Six bowl games. I don't know if y'all know much about Tulane, but they're coming out now where I think they only lost 2 games last year.
They're in Conference USA? Is that where are they?
The AAC. I think they just moved to the AAC. And that's probably going to be merged with Pac-12. I don't know. That's another subject we talk about. Is Pac-12 merging the 4 remaining teams? Are they merging with the WAC, Mountain West? Or I've even seen making the Pacific America League and it just being the Conference USA or AAC merging with the Pac-12. I think after this year, if they weren't already considered Power 5, which they are, but they really have one team and then an outlier that kind of makes the top 10.
Yeah.
Definitely after this year. You're having to merge with a lower conference. They'll still be competitive, decent, may have a couple teams come out, but I think we're going to be down to a Power 4 conferences. But a lot of these aren't necessarily ridiculous, but it's like, why did you... I get how advertising works and sponsorships work. A lot of these games you would like to see not commercialized, but we get it. We have advertisers and sponsors on the station. But the Fiesta Bowl is now the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. I think the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl was perfect for that.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, Tostitos is still, a major brand, but I get sometimes you go back past bowl games, some of the sponsors don't even exist anymore as companies. Yeah. The Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I don't even know. Is Wasabi a brand? It's not a brand name.
I don't know.
Like Kleenex and tissue, like we say Kleenex even though, or Jacuzzi. Is Wasabi a brand?
I don't know.
I was just thinking it's that spicy, gross green stuff.
I thought it was the food.
Yeah.
The actual name for food.
I don't know. Maybe there is a food brand. Maybe it's a proper.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's the when you get sushi.
Unless
I never
that's
eat
the
it.
American name for it.
I don't know. Wasabi Fenway Bowl. We can all guess where that's Boston at Fenway Park. The Pop-Tarts Bowl. That didn't really get much worse. It was the Camping World something bowl. That's in Orlando. The some companies don't need a sponsor. Like I get sponsors, AT&T Stadium, Ford, American Airlines, like big names. But then when you're the Smoothie King Arena, Quicken Loans Arena, that's like it cheapens it a little bit. Okay. Now this isn't a major bowl game, but it's a decent bowl game. The Sun Bowl, right? We all know the Sun Bowl, El Paso. They're the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl.
Frosted Flakes. I guess that does sound better than the Frosted Flakes Bowl, but like really,
I think
like just call it the Bourbon Bowl, like the Water Boy.
Games become a stretch to me.
I like them. I don't. Yeah, there are way too many. They're kind of pointless. I get that,
especially with the sponsor names to them.
When you have long names like the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, with huge long names like that, I like them because you got all these odd matchups. What are you going to do? Stop having college football for 4 weeks until we get to the college football playoff? I like all the bowl games. I get that they're mostly useless. A lot of these schools make money off those, and you have to have sponsors like this to continue to pay them because they're not getting the ratings that they need to get. What about the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl? I think websites are kind of out. I don't think websites should be. At least don't have .com. I know Roofclaim doesn't. You don't have to have the Facebook.com bowl or whatever, or the Twitter or X. Well, it's still Twitter.com. I know it's X, the X bowl.
Yeah.
Roofclaim.com does need that, but who uses nationwide roofing companies
Mike,
anyways?
3883 says that there's never too many postseason games, just too many bad name bowls. And I think he's right about that one. I think you're proving the point there that.
No, I'm still looking down to read this. I can't. Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah, that's
like I like it. The Gasparilla Bowl, the Cotton Bowl.
Like give all the teams a postseason game. Give them games. Let everyone just play out and really all these is for sponsors to make money. That's what this is. And maybe for some of these sponsors just to spend money at the end of the year before tax season. I mean, but
roofclaim.com.
Give us all the football we can get, especially college football.
I agree. And it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to watch this game that's called the roofclaim.com. And roofclaim.com, I bet you gets we're saying your name a lot. I expect a check in the mail. But they're going to get this is good for these. Tony the Tiger, I assume that's got to be Frosted Flakes. Yeah. But, for these teams these teams that make these lower bowl games get like few $100,000 added to, and then the coaches get, because that's the thing. Even though it's a lot watered down, somewhat like the Pro Bowl, that's what schools look like. How many bowl games have you made in the last 10 years? Looks at the coaches' resumes. How many bowl games? Because that shows, hey, we had won 6 games, or we were able to make it.
When everyone makes a bowl game, then how is that relevant anymore?
The idea of the bowl game is probably one of the greatest ideas in college sports.
It's brilliant because
execution, what they did with the bowl games,
and it's still
right. When they had it where everybody's main goal was, okay, if we're not gonna get into the playoffs, you get to halfway point in the season, if you're making the playoffs or not, and if you really have a chance at that top 4. If you don't, your main goal is, okay, who are we playing in the bowl game?
Yeah. The Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl.
I mean, it's just
Independence Bowl is a decent bowl. It's like, why do you go for that? Like, I didn't like, now it's a Goodyear Cotton Bowl. I think it was Goodyear before too, but I think of it as AT&T Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Which I think
just the Cotton Bowl.
And that's how I don't say, hey, you're watching the AT&T Cotton or the Goodyear Cotton Bowl this year. It is. But yeah, on that note, I'll end it with this. We're almost out of, you have one thing a comment to read or something?
Yeah. Mike said the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl is a poor name, but has a fun gimmick with the mayo bag.
Well, they dumped the mayo, on the winning coach. That's what because I will watch, at least I'll watch the end of it just for that, or you see it on ESPN for that. But you're right, it's a great marketing scheme, because let's say the NFL season ends, the playoffs, you take all the teams that don't make the playoffs and they go play basically a preseason game.
Yeah, give them a match.
These, I don't know the ratings, these get a better rating. I will watch Arizona State face off against North Carolina in the Duke Mayo Bowl or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch the Houston Texans. I mean, it's different because it's odd matchups, and Houston will play, every 4 years will play somebody. But you're right. You're going to get ratings that you would never get if you just put on whatever you put on at noon on December 22nd or whatever. But with that, we are out of time. I'm glad we were able to get through everything. I was worried about that. But
and thank Mike for jumping in here and
guys,
a lot of insight here on he's commenting the whole show.
And you just wait till the end to read it?
Sorry, man. We were busy. We were into it. He was just commenting about college football.
All right, guys. Thanks. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for listening to this episode. Hope we got you ready for your sports Saturday. Until next time, I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony.
I'm Landen.
See you later, guys.